Oh, we should be live. JP, get your butt back here.
Can't just leave in the middle of a broadcast.
Let me see.
Are we on?
Yeah, I want to step on your toe because last time you screamed
Yeah,
like
I
a little baby.
screamed when you stepped
I
on
didn't
my
step
toe.
on it. I went like this and it went
You
like...
told me it's okay to go barefoot, that we
Oh, it
actually
is.
should go barefoot.
You're right.
I don't
Good
even
point.
know if we're on. Nobody said anything.
We're good.
All right, we're great. Hey, everybody, and welcome to episode 72 of Weight Loss Wednesday. I'm Chef AJ, the creator of the Ultimate Weight Loss Program, which I run with my partner, John Pierre. And we are here to answer your questions about healthy, permanent, and sustainable weight loss. And the best way to submit a question to us is through the website, eatunprocessed.com. So welcome back. You've been gone for such a long time.
Thank you. Been on the road, but I'm back.
On the road again, Colorado, baby. If you're lucky enough to live in Boulder, you can be booking sessions with him there. But people in LA, you're doing sessions for people, celebrities, regular people, you name it. So John Pierre's website is johnpierre.com and livingwithharmony.org, where you can find all of his great product recommendations. All right, so the first question's an easy one because we definitely agree with this.
Okay.
Cara or Cara, I never know when it's spelled C-A-R-A, if it's Cara or Cara, but she wanted to know what can opener we recommend.
Oh, that's an easy one. Where is it?
Dun, 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 dun.
And the most important thing is, why do we recommend it?
Because it's kind.
It's a kind can
It's a
opener.
kind can. What kind of can opener? It's a Tupperware can opener. If you want the link, we've already done the party. It's closed, but just go the page you're on now. Keep searching down, and you'll find a link to Tupperware. So the reason is because most can openers have a really sharp, jagged edge, which you could cut yourself.
That's true.
But more important than that, when you put it in the trash, sometimes your dogs and your cats lick it and they cut their tongue. Or raccoons.
Animals,
so
absolutely.
it's cruelty-free, but it's more hygienic because a regular can opener cuts into the can.
Yes.
So if a rat pooped on that can, that poop goes into the can, whereas this one just sucks it off, lifts it off. So great can opener. I first heard about these when I volunteered at the Braille Institute teaching cooking to the blind, and this is the best kind of can opener you can imagine.
And I was lucky enough to get a gift from you, which was that.
And it's very, very affordable and very stylish. So if you don't want to get Tupperware, we don't care, but get a cruelty-free can opener.
There are other brands that have.
Absolutely.
I have one too. They're amazing.
Absolutely.
And also, if you don't have that one, you should wash your can lids.
Absolutely. I love Tupperware because you have a lifetime guarantee on most products, but what's even better is to not use cans.
Well, that's a good point.
You know, the thing is I do use a few cans, salt-free canned beans.
Me too.
I prefer the boxes, but I have used those, and I do use the canned tomatoes, the Muir Glens fire roasted, but for the most part, the best can opener is none. Mm-hmm. Eat whole food.
Yep.
But it's a great question. Thank you, Cara or Cara.
I like that question. It's
I
interesting.
know. And these are real questions. I mean, that's what's so funny because
we don't make them up.
No, we don't make them up. Sometimes the names have been changed to protect the innocent, but we don't make them up. Lauren. So she's about to have a baby in the next 2 weeks.
Congratulations.
She's going to have a little Taurus baby. And she said, is there anything in particular that a postpartum and breastfeeding mom needs to know or add to her diet while eating in the Ultimate Weight Loss way? So I'm going to show a couple of books that might help you. We're not doctors and we're not dietitians. However, Dr. McDougall has a wonderful book called The McDougall's Women Program. Whole chapter on breastfeeding. It's a great book, and I think you sometimes even gets some of his chapters for free just going to his website. Lots of resources on drmcdougall.com.
Yep.
And Brenda Davis,
Excellent.
our favorite plant-based dietitian, has this new version, the comprehensive edition of Becoming Vegan. And again, there's a chapter on vegan children, on breastfeeding. So both these books would be a terrific resource to you.
But in general, you're going to need to, make sure you get enough calories.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And particularly minerals. Anytime you're breastfeeding, obviously you're losing minerals and protein. So again, blended soups work really well. If somebody's able, like I still use for a lot of my clients, smoothies. But they're green smoothies, so they're basically just a little bit of blueberries and predominantly mainly greens in there, or a blended soup, and then also DHA, so that omega-3 is really important. That it's the baby when you're pregnant, it's important, but it's important for brain development and retinal development in the baby's eyes. So the DHA and also EPA.
Right.
And B12 supplementation, things like that.
B12 is across the board. There's iodine. There's everything that's important, but you really have to be careful with that DHA for sure, and then just making sure you get enough calories.
Right, because when you're breastfeeding, you burn a lot more calories.
Oh, sure.
And you don't have to necessarily eat a lot more fat to get a lot more calories.
Right, correct.
Right, but there's
You need to
nothing
eat more
wrong
food.
with having some fat.
Nothing wrong with eating some fat.
And
Absolutely.
oats in particular are really great for breastfeeding, for
Oats are one of
breast
the
milk
highest.
production. Yep.
highest in fats of all the grains, you know. But again, if you don't have an issue with nuts or seeds or avocados or olives, that's fine because it's important for brain development and everything. So.
Right. You still don't have to go back to eating sugar or flour
no.
or oil or alcohol or salt.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, we're not against the high-fat plant foods. We're only not against them isn't the word, but we ask people that have trouble with them. They
Yes.
can't moderate the use of them.
Right.
To possibly not include them, or at least not include them at the beginning, while they neuroadapt to a lower fat diet. And we have a great question about neuroadapt.
Well, let's say you and I went to Las Vegas, and somebody
And
says,
we go to Las
and we
Vegas
go to
once
Las
a year
Vegas.
because we have a conference
Yeah,
there,
it's coming up.
September 1st and 2nd.
But let's say we went and somebody said, "Hey, I'm giving you $20 to go play slot machines." So we each got 20. We could each go play the slot machines for 20 minutes, and when we're done, we leave.
Yeah.
But somebody who has an addictive
Right.
mindset, they couldn't. So it's the same thing with nuts and seeds and fats. You know, some people, like I can eat them and then shut it off. Other people, they have just one or two and they go crazy.
That's right. It's like that. Like in AA, they say one drink, one drunk. We've seen people with 1 nut, 1 pound,
Oh,
meaning
absolutely.
1 pound of nuts.
Oh,
They
and then it's a
can't-
downward spiral.
Right. So that's the thing. Is the main thing is you have to know yourself.
Yes.
Right.
And Alicia Silverstone has a great book too. It's called The Kind Mama, I think.
You trained her, didn't you?
Yeah.
Cool.
The Kind Mama.
Wow.
Yeah.
I know The Kind Diet. I haven't seen that one.
I think it's The Kind Mama is the
Oh.
book, but I could be mistaken. So Google it.
Nice.
And by the way, the UWL way. I mean, I appreciate that people like know the name of the program, but it's not my way. It's God's way. It's nature's way. The way that we recommend people eat. It's not a diet. People say, "Oh, it's so extreme," but it's the way that people ate throughout most of human history. That they still eat in parts of the world today. Guys, not everybody puts oil and salt and flour and sugar and alcohol in their diet or on their food. So
Well, just go to True North and see what they do. I mean,
for 40 years they've been eating that way.
For
People
40 years, that's amazing.
So Dr. Goldhammer's been eating that way for 40 years. So the UWL way is just an unprocessed way of eating. It's a vegan way of eating, but it's the way. It's a sane and safe way to eat. So in other words, a baby could be raised this way. Sure, you don't want to get rid of fat for a baby. Babies don't need to not
Right.
eat fat. It's for some of us adults that are food addicts that have trouble with some of these high fat foods.
Or prone to being fat.
But see, I'd like the UWL way to be just called food. You know, this is what should be normal. We're considered extreme. People that follow the standard American diet have to get their chest cracked open or inject insulin. They're considered normal, and because we eat whole foods, we're considered extreme.
Right.
So anyway,
it is interesting when people say this is an extreme program.
yeah. Well, that's what I shared with you a post from somebody in our group that's posting in another group how extreme this is and how difficult it is. And it is difficult when you're an addict, but when you're not, you pretty much follow this way of eating just naturally.
I mean, like I said, I eat a little bit higher fats.
Right, but you don't seek out the oil and the sugar and the
no, not at all.
and you don't you could ostensibly because of your activity level, but you pretty much eat this way.
Yep.
And by choice, not because you have to, in other words. So Mariah says that she's having, this is perfect for you because I know nothing about this, having problems finding good information on feeding teen athletes a plant-based vegan diet. Concerns are football players who are trying to keep on weight. Then she has a friend who's a doctor who's scaring her, saying that her teens do not get enough calcium, and that is why they have the injuries they do, which are microfractures in the lower legs.
Okay. Well, first of all, when somebody says that we're going to add weight on, we got to eat to add weight, there's basically 2 types of weights. We could have fat or muscle. Technically, you could have bone, but it's hard. And we could have water weight.
I prefer muscle.
Yeah, of course. But so the kids definitely need to be working out, and we want them to gain more muscle weight. We don't necessarily want them to have tremendous fat weight, but they just up their calories. So they can have nut butter sandwiches. They can have smoothies with nut butters. They can have avocados. They can have olives. They can have higher fat foods, and they definitely should be eating lots of starches.
Yep.
So potatoes should be non-negotiable. They should be having all the time. Get a baked potato and make guacamole and put guacamole inside the potato, or do the same thing with hummus, or do both, hummus and guacamole inside your potato. And in terms of minerals, calcium is only one of the minerals that your bones need. I'm more concerned about where you're getting your boron. Where's your vitamin K coming from? Are you getting adequate levels of vitamin C? Because all those things form bone. So yes, you do need calcium, but if you want calcium, get calcium the same way that cows get their calcium. From where?
From plants.
From plants, absolutely. That's where every animal on Earth gets their minerals from, is from plants, ultimately.
See, I'm exercising right now. I'm lifting this
Yes.
14-pound living weight. But what's interesting about that question, I can't speak to the athletic part, but the thing about how so many people are telling parents that their kids are too thin, when in reality they're actually normal weight. And I think the perception has changed in the country and in the world that when somebody is normal weight, meaning a normal BMI, at least 18.5. They say that, under 18 is underweight. But when somebody is of a normal BMI now, they're being told that they're too thin and they're underweight because more than 3/4 of our population is overweight. Half of those are obese. Right. And it's interesting because sometimes I'll watch Turner broadcast, Turner, whatever that station is, Ted Turner's, there's old movies, in other words. And I had never seen the movie Breakfast at Tiffany's, a famous movie with Audrey Hepburn. And, you could find blogs that say, oh, she was anorexic, whatever, she smoked, back in the day, all the actors smoked, not necessarily to be thin, that was just the way it was. But when I watch these old movies, or even Guys and Dolls, well, I'm already tired, so I'm going to just is that even the extras, and you could say, oh, well, because in show business there were no overweight people, but there were fewer overweight people in the 30s, 40s, and 50s to be extras, to be in there, and so now, because normal weight people are the minority, them are being attacked for being too thin. Yep. And so I'm not going to mention the name on the air, of course, but you and I shared a client once, a gentleman, and he said, yeah, I need to lose about 20 pounds, and the reality was he needed to lose about 80 pounds. So even people that are acknowledge that they're overweight, we get this all the time, oh, I need to lose 10 or 20 pounds, when they're actually more like 100 pounds overweight. Sure. The perception of what is a normal body size, and of course there's the media, and then, with the actresses that you see that are truly possibly anorexic, but now it's like, it's gotten so far that we don't recognize what a normal body weight is anymore. Right. And so I'm not saying that her kids are too thin. I don't know. But the perception is that anybody who is not overweight is too thin, and anybody that's overweight, that's obese now, is just merely considered overweight.
Well, also these kids are competing with other high school kids and college kids that are using steroids. And have you ever seen some professional football players, how overweight they actually are?
Oh,
so
yeah.
you're actually trying to move somebody that's literally 60 or 70 pounds overweight. I'm not talking muscle, just over fat. Right. So, that's a tough thing to do. Yeah. But basically, more smoothies, more blended soups, lots of minerals, so nuts and seeds are fine for kids, but lots of green leafy vegetables. And then up your calories, and there's nothing wrong with having more sweet potatoes and starches and some fats for the kids.
Right. But would it not, again, I don't know anything about athletics, collegiate, high school, or whatever, but would it also not help that somebody just gets stronger, to build muscle?
Obviously.
Because if you're trying to move somebody, wouldn't it, just to be fat is not going to help, but to be muscular would be even more important, right?
Absolutely. You're right. The more muscle you can build in any time in your life, the better it is. But once you get in your 30s, it's almost a downward spiral in terms of losing muscle. So you have to be fighting constantly to gain muscle. Constantly.
And it gets harder.
But that's a good point.
Yeah, definitely gets harder. So, alrighty. Thank you, Mariah. Darla says, do we have tips on how to consume large salads without getting digestive issues? And we do.
We had a great thing, right?
Yeah.
You fell in love with it.
That's right. And we're actually, as soon as my book comes out, which hopefully will be any week now, the delay is in the cover, guys. The book is written, but the cover art, there's been some problems, and you don't need to know the long story, but that's what's delaying it. So we have a recipe. It's his recipe, and you call it a blended salad. Yep. I called it salad in a glass, and it's basically a smoothie made out of just salad. Like you literally take your salad, like we would do this at True North. Oh, it's delicious. Like, so at True North, they do serve vegetables for breakfast, but breakfast is at 8:30 there, and sometimes we don't get hungry till 11. So what me and Angela, who were there for the extravaganza, did, we'd have our 8-cup Tupperware bowl, and we would go to the salad bar, which is 24 hours at True North, and put in whatever we want, cucumbers, tomato, anything you want. And then when we felt hungry, we had a blender in my room, we would just blend it, and then you have like 150 to 200 calories of just delicious beverage that is so good, and it's so easy on the digestion because the blender has pre-digested it.
And when we made it here for one of our shows, you loved it.
I had never tried it during the mastery program when we do weekly interactions and things. He made it live, and I tasted it. When he actually put a little bit of salad dressing in mine, it was delicious. Now I just do it plain or with lime juice. So we're going to actually show you one as soon as the book comes out. We'll be doing a recipe a week, but that's one way to do it.
That's an easy way, and also just ease your way into it. If you go from a standard American diet with maybe 5 to 15 grams of fiber a day. Suddenly now you're doing UWL, which you could be doing 70 to 100 grams of fiber a day. That's a little bit of fast transition. It's like the equivalent of walking a block and then next week walking 10 miles.
Right.
So you have to go slow, especially if your system isn't used to it, and blending it is a good way. The other thing is using starches and even white rice for some people that helps them so they can get full and they don't have all that fiber issues. So, yeah.
You know, the other thing is if you're coming from the standard American diet or the junk food version of the vegan diet, you're basically on, like you said, a fiberless diet. So you've kind of lost your ability to chew. You forget that you actually have to chew food. Whether it's chicken nuggets or Cinnabon, processed food and animal products can pretty much be swallowed whole like a steak. Plant food can't, especially things that are very cruciferous with stalks like broccoli and celery. You actually have to chew, and Dr. Clapper always says you have to chew your food into a cream.
Yes.
The standard American diet and the junk food, vegan food has contributed to people losing their ability to even remember how much they have to chew. And when you're eating vegetables and salads, you really have to chew. And if you try to use the same chewing practices that you did on the processed food and animal products to this diet, you're going to have indigestion because you're not used to really chewing your food to a cream, because animal products and processed food are pretty much pre-chewed in a way. So
Well,
that's
you're
one
making
thing.
a good point. That's an excellent point. You know, you have the digestion begins actually in your mouth.
Right, with an amylase. And, you know,
chewing.
Yeah.
Actually, if you look at people who are macrobiotic, they chew normally 50 to 100 times per mouthful, and almost anyone who's been in macrobiotics for a long time has a very muscular jaw.
So a lot of
constantly
the digestion problems will be alleviated by proper chewing.
That's a good point. Or blending.
Or blending.
Yes.
But a lot of people really aren't chewing well enough, and also they're eating distracted. You know, too many people are eating while texting and watching TV and driving, and when you do that, you are not concentrating on chewing and digesting. You know, the other thing is, you know, we have a question later on about how do you know if you're full from Michelle, and one of the things is, and even though I'm not like the biggest proponent of mindfulness, I think it's important. I don't think it's like the first thing that we attack when somebody is trying to lose weight or get healthy. If you are distracted, you don't get the satiety signals the same way.
Right.
If you pay attention, if eating is the only activity you're doing. You know, satiety, believe it or not, begins with the eyes.
Yeah.
And that's why, as opposed to the weighing and measuring programs where you're getting minuscule portions of food, on UWL you're getting large portions of food.
Yeah.
So you are already saying, hey, I know I'm going to be satisfied. This is a lot of food. But then again, you really have to chew your food, chew it well. The other thing is we get questions every day in the UWL group about bloating, about digestive things. And again, we're not doctors, but one of the things that we all have access to is Google. And you can Google list of gas-producing vegetables, and literally will come up every single vegetable out there, from the most gas-producing, which are the crucifers, the cabbage and the broccoli and the cauliflower, to the least gas-producing, which are the fruity vegetables, the ones that are actually fruits, like the cherry tomato and zucchini. And most people don't have any problems with zucchini, whether it's raw or steamed or air fried or cherry tomatoes. Most people can handle those. And so the idea is if you're going from very few or no vegetables to eating several pounds a day, as we recommend on UWL, first of all, as John Pierre said, start with a smaller amount. If you can't do a pound, do a quarter of a pound. If you can't do a quarter of a pound, do an eighth of a pound. If you can't do that, eat 1 leaf of spinach. We don't care, just work your way up. But the other thing is if you have never eaten the crucifers like the kale and the broccoli, then maybe start with another vegetable first. Or like JP said, start with it blended. Or in a soup, for example, like making broccoli, steaming it well, pureeing it into a soup. That's a much easier way to digest it. But again, you still have to chew. Even when we do smoothies, we chew them.
Yeah. And also, eating very slow is important, and it's hard to eat slow if you're very hungry.
Right.
So I've actually ate with people before when they're super slow eaters. They're super slow. My gosh, they eat like a 3-toed sloth. So slow. And I was really hungry, and I remember I was done with my entire salad, and they were still eating. So it became crystal clear to me that I needed to make sure that I wasn't as hungry, because I noticed that when I was really hungry,
You eat faster.
I ate too fast. So it became crystal clear then.
Yep.
Sandra said, I thought the recommendation was to not drink your calories. She must mean for weight loss.
Well, in general, but that is mostly if you're talking about like designer coffee drinks that have dairy or sugar in the form of alcohol, in the form of juice without the fiber, in the form of sweet smoothies. But when a salad smoothie or a hot soup, this is just vegetables.
Yeah, but you will feel full faster if you were to take all that and eat it whole. because you're going to eat slower. But for people who have digestive issues, time issues, things like that, then you can blend
because
it.
right now we are talking about digestive issues,
Yeah,
and
but it's a good point.
so many people nowadays, and I'm hoping to get one of the big doctors at UCLA for an interview. They're not easy to get, especially because I like to do my shows in the daytime when they're seeing patients. But so many people are being diagnosed with IBS now, SIBO, which is small intestinal bacteria overgrowth, and there's just as many treatments for that as there are other conditions. So we're not here to give our medical opinion, but you should definitely get that checked out, and I'm hoping one of the plant-based doctors will come forward and give their opinion when I future interviews with why we're seeing so much of that right now. And and it's not just women. At first I thought, oh, it just seems like all the ladies, but no, there's a couple guys in our group that are having this. So, you know, one of the things you can do on your own without seeing a doctor, without having allergy testing, is just do an elimination diet, like on Dr. McDougall's website, where you literally pick a starch, like rice or sweet potatoes, and like one non-starchy vegetable like zucchini, and you just eat that for a while, and hopefully you won't have any symptoms of bloating or discomfort, and then you can add a food back at a time, slowly, keeping an accurate journal, and that's the best way to do it anyway. Even if you get all the testing and find out you have all these allergies, you still, the proof of the pudding is in the eating.
And a lot of medications and chlorinated water that really messes up the intestinal tract, and so does stress. So,
and I think a lot of it is GMOs.
Oh, well, that's a good point.
Because the thing is like, I mean, I am allergic to soy, but boy, this allergy didn't really manifest full force until we started genetically modifying it. And I don't want to test it and see if I can eat organic soy now, because I know how bad I feel, because I really am allergic to it. But I am sure that a lot of it has to do with the GMOs and even the pesticides, because a lot of people say, oh, when I ate this apple, I got really sick. But maybe it wasn't the apple. Maybe it was what the apple was sprayed with.
Absolutely, great point.
So that's
especially if people don't wash their fruit or veggies before they eat them.
And remember, we talked about this last time. You can use essential oils like thyme. You could use the On Guard. You can use antibacterial, antiviral, and 1 or 2 drops, and then soak your vegetables or fruits in them, and that gets rid of bacteria, viruses, and funguses.
Right. You know, I just thought of this, and I don't know if it's true for everyone, but maybe for some people. You know, so many people, especially the women, come to us from these very, very restrictive programs where they're literally eating 17 ounces of food per meal. Oh, right. Which is like 25% of what I eat in a meal. So in other words, on these weighing and measuring programs, what they eat in a day, I eat more than that in a meal. So they gotten very used to eating very small amounts of food. Well, if you're eating a pound of vegetables, instead of 7 ounces, you're eating, more than double that, you are going to feel fuller, and they're fuller. And there's a certain amount of stretch that's going to happen. I mean, it's normal. I mean, it's normal, not that you should be bloated to the size of a 9-month pregnant person, but it is normal for your stomach to expand. I mean, my husband Charles is thin, and when he eats, if we were to take a tape measure, his stomach would be in. And so what I think a lot of it is because, I don't want to say they're vain, but they're very self-conscious, and they want to be thin so much, and then so when their tummy moves out a little bit, it's like, oh my God, they think of it as they're fat. Yeah, and it's psychologically distressing.
I've been to conferences with raw fooders, and I've seen them eat in one meal 20 plums. And some of them will eat, 20, 30 bananas in the course of a day, and their belly becomes definitely distended out from all that volume. It's no different if you drink a lot of water and your bladder was expanding. That's just normal. Yeah.
If it never goes down, that's another story.
That's an issue, sure.
Or if it's causing you discomfort, or if you have diarrhea or things like that. Right. But this is why going to the True North Health Center can be so beneficial, because when you do a water fast and they refeed you, they can really find out what the culprits are for you. Yep. Okay. The other thing is, and sorry, but I keep thinking of this, is a lot of the people that I know personally in our group that are complaining of this, they eat very late at night.
That's a good point, too.
And then they complain about their IBS and the bloating, but they're eating these huge meals with starch at like 9:30, 10 o'clock at night.
Oh, yeah. I recommend that at least try, for many people should try intermittent fasting. Yeah. They should try. I do best like around 12, starting eating it at 12 and go to about 6. I don't always get that, but that works well for me.
Very good. Very good. Michelle, how do you know when you've reached comfortably full? I sometimes go past it, but usually don't realize it until it's too late.
We get that question a lot.
Yeah.
It's a hard one to answer.
Yeah. Because it's a feeling.
It's a feeling.
And I could tell you it feels like this on me, but that's not going to translate.
Exactly.
Yeah.
If you feel sick, probably you should have stopped sooner.
Right. So that concept in Japan, haribachi bu, where you eat to 80% full, it's hard to know what 80% full is if you don't feel full till 100. I've noticed that the people that ask this question, again, usually come from these weighing and measuring programs where they have been forced to eat less food than they want, so that they actually don't even know what full feels like because they were not full for all the while they were on the weighing and measuring program.
Right.
And so now they're getting foods, lots of fiber that are very filling, and now all of a sudden maybe they can't tolerate that feeling because they're so used to starving themselves on these other programs. So my recommendation is if the food is truly to the left of the red line, fruits, vegetables, whole grains, legumes, without the addition of any of the chemicals like the SOFAs, sugar, oil, flour, alcohol, salt, it almost doesn't matter. In other words, not that I'm encouraging overeating, but if you ate an extra sweet potato, all that's going to happen is it's going to take longer for you to get hungry. So I don't there's a great video I did on YouTube with Dr. Lyle about weighing and measuring the food, and he says there is no correct amount of food to eat. He goes, for the next hour, for the next 2 hours, for the next day. But what you can do if you want to get to that sweet spot is ask yourself this: am I hungry enough to eat? And then fill in the blank with the vegetable you like the least. So for me, that would be celery. Am I hungry enough to eat celery? I only spun for 75 minutes today instead of 90 because you asked me about that. And when I get off the spin bike after 90 minutes, I will eat anything that's not nailed down. I mean, yes, I have preferences. I'd rather eat air-fried zucchini over steamed zucchini, over raw zucchini. But when I get off the bike, I'll eat the first thing I see. It's already prepared, by the way. So the idea is when I'm eating Murasaki sweet potatoes, I can keep going because they're delicious. They taste like cake. But then I say to myself, yeah, I could eat another one. So that actually happened today, and then I had a broadcast, and I didn't get to finish what I wanted. So you know what happened? An hour later, I was hungry. I ate some more. That's the worst that can happen. But say to yourself, but if I had said to myself after the last sweet potato, when I wanted to have another one, I said, well, gosh, could I eat some celery right now? No, I couldn't. So then I'm not going to eat anymore. You can always go back. This isn't a weighing and measuring or timed program. You can always go back and eat more food.
It's not a crisis.
Right.
You definitely can go back.
Yeah. But I know what they're saying, like, how do you know until you're full, until you've overeaten?
Yeah.
You practice.
It's an interesting question, though, because you would think people would know.
But it's only people with histories of discordant eating.
I know.
That have restricted
But it's like, how would you explain it to a child? Like, if a child said that.
Yeah, how
know?
do I know, if I've taken enough breaths today?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, unless you're asthmatic or have emphysema, you wouldn't, because we don't get this question for people that have never been overweight or followed restrictive diet. Charles would never, how do you know when you're full? I don't know. It's a normal thing. It's that all the years of abusing the body through discordant eating and restrictive dieting. In the Pleasure Trap, which is soon to be released on audio, they have a section on the mechanisms of satiation, the stretch, nutrient, and calorie receptors. So there's a lot of play in there to know when you've eaten enough. Dr. Lyle calls these the Yowle circuits, Y-O-W-E-L. You are overweight, eat less. But I would also add that if people are still adding chemicals to their food, like sugar, oil, flour, or salt, that is going to stimulate them to eat more. It's going to fool their brain satiety mechanisms, so they're going to have trouble stopping when they're full. That's another thing.
Well, that food industry spend billions of dollars to create that, especially that magical formula for chips and things like that.
So if you're really eating left of the red line with no SOFAs, you will get full. You will stop. Nobody just keeps eating till they burst.
Yeah,
Hasn't happened. You can't. Not on this food. All right.
Good question.
Yep. Thank you.
And I do notice that most people who ask me that question are clients who have eating disorders. Yeah.
Yeah. Like I said, somebody that's never been overweight doesn't ask that. And somebody that's never restricted diet. Even people that are overweight but have not followed restrictive diets, because there are people that are overweight because they eat the wrong food.
Yeah,
not because they have emotional problems. They just eat too much of the wrong food. They don't ask this question either, because they do know when they're full. It's just that they're eating such a high caloric, high fat diet that it causes them to be, 30, 50 pounds overweight. So Carrie says, if I wanted to give my type 2 diabetic overweight mother one book, movie, or other resource to convince her that eating this way will make her diabetes better and even possibly go away, what would you recommend? The books by Furman and Barnard might be too much of a time commitment, and better if she wants to know more. Do you have a compassionate way of inviting her to watch or read your recommended resources that won't make her feel defensive? She seems absolutely convinced that she can't eat carbs. I like this book.
Yeah. Can't go wrong with Brenda
By
Davis.
Brenda Davis. But the thing is there twice in the question the word convince, and have a problem with that word because I always think of the old saying, a man convinced against his will is of the same opinion still. I don't think you can convince anybody. I've been vegan for 41 years and I have never convinced one person to adopt a plant-based diet.
But you can educate.
Right.
So I think by reading, that's good. And who else has a good information is Robbie and Cyrus.
Mm-hmm. The Mastering Diabetes program.
Yeah, that's a great program too. And they have also a diabetic summit where you can listen to.
Yeah, the Mastering Diabetes Summit but I don't think it's about being gentle or not gentle. If a person isn't open to the information,
right.
it doesn't matter. I mean, if your mom isn't open to this, I could send Dr. Barnard and Dr. Furman to her door like Ed McMahon. If you won the Publishers Clearinghouse, it won't mean anything to her.
Yeah,
so
it doesn't hurt to, I think, at least if you're around her, play it, put a DVD in when you're with her and say, let's watch 10 minutes of it.
Yeah.
Doesn't hurt. And may open her up.
I mean, sometimes just forks over knives is a pretty easy entry of this way of eating for people. But again, if she really believes that carbs will make her fat, they will make her fat. Yeah. That's what she believes. It doesn't matter what the evidence is to the contrary.
Right.
But sometimes having her see success stories of people like in our group, like Nikki, or people that are completely overcoming their diabetes can really help. And lots of those stories are available in many different YouTube videos of recommendations of people. But this book's, I like this book.
Everything Brenda does is excellent.
Yeah, she did studies in the Marshall Islands and she's still doing them with people that are really, really large group of diabetic people, eating things like fried Kool-Aid and
fried Kool-Aid.
Yeah, I don't know how you fry Kool-Aid.
Wow.
I know. I have no idea how that works, but eating a lot of Spam, and she's doing wonderful work there. So
that's an excellent book, and Neil Barnard has one too.
Right.
Yes.
Really good.
And Brenda's very gentle, her approach. And you can find lots of her
and you
stuff
can YouTube her too.
Yeah, absolutely.
There are a lot of YouTube videos by Gregor, McDougall, and Esselstyn's, and on diabetes.
Yeah. Monica says, I know you have explained, she says near adaptation. That's cute. It must be neuro adaptation. But for some people, it's near. It's pretty close. It's happening in the past. But for us newbies, can you please discuss the process again, the expected time frame, and in particular provide tips and strategies on how to deal with getting through it, such as how to get sufficient nutrition when you're not eating enough of it because you're not loving it. In the beginning, it can be difficult to deal with so many withdrawal symptoms and lifestyle changes. I understand that eventually I will love all the good and wonderful foods from Whole Food Plant-Based and SOFA's-free way of eating, and I know I'm getting there. And by the way, if you like this broadcast, consider sharing it right now so other people can watch it.
Well, one thing, first of all, is to be hungry. I think a lot of people don't realize that when they say they don't like this food. Well, go to True North and fast for a week. And when they serve you some steamed vegetables, it'll be the greatest thing you've ever tasted.
Everybody that breaks their fast at True North on steamed zucchini, it's like watching Harry Met Sally, the Meg Ryan scene where she practically has an orgasm. I mean, it's true. It's true.
So yeah, be hungry. But the neuroadaptation you want to talk, because sugar and fat are a little bit different. Fat especially takes longer.
Salts, salts probably in some ways. So let's just, in case you're new to watching us or these concepts, neuroadaptation or neurological adaptation simply means getting used to something. Many of us use the example, JP and I were both born in the 60s. I don't know about you, but we were raised on whole milk until one day in the late 60s, our parents switched us to non-fat milk. And the non-fat milk tasted way different. It was thinner, and we thought it was disgusting. Mm-hmm. And after our parents said, too bad, this is what you're getting. And after a few weeks, we got used to it. Mm-hmm. So that when we were given whole milk, we thought, this is disgusting. That's what neuroadaptation is. Another example would be if you go to the movies late, you can't see because it's dark. But instead of standing there screaming, you stay still. Your eyes will adjust to the new level of darkness from the screen. You'll have some light, and you'll find your seat. So getting used to it. And it's sort of like... If smokers, for example, smell terrible, their breath smells terrible, but they can be around each other, they're used to how bad they smell. So neuroadaptation can be the smell, a sense of smell or sight or hearing. You get, people that work at rock concerts probably get used to the loudness of that. Sure. So you get used to it. And thank goodness, because some things are really stinky, and if you had to smell them all day, that would be really bad.
It just takes time.
Yeah, same thing with a good smell. Like if you come into some place that's using an essential oil diffuser, like you go, oh my God, this smells great, but a few minutes later you don't smell it anymore. So you get used to it. Well, the same thing happens with the taste nerves, the sensitive taste nerves on your tongue, and with your brain chemistry, and with this food. But the problem is it takes a while, and that's why a lot of people are unsuccessful because they don't give it enough time.
Well, but things like salt, you have your table tasty,
Yeah.
which really helps replace
Absolutely.
it. Spices and herbs really help.
Right.
And then people with sugar, obviously, if you start
Fruit.
using fruit, I mean, that makes it easy. Fats might take,
That seems to be the longest for people to
it could
really
take
get
months,
used to a
3
lower.
months.
I've seen 120 days is the most I've seen. And it's funny because I was going to be talking next time I interview Dr. Lyle about that, because I'm noticing that the people in our live program, which we're going to talk about in a minute because you just lectured to them, that's what they seem to be seeking, that when they relapse, even though not everybody, but many people say, well, I'm a real sugar addict. But when I see people relapsing, even in our group, it's not like, shoot, I ate some Twizzlers. Darn, I had a Slurpee. It's always sugar with fat.
Yeah,
it
sure.
always seems that it's the fat they're going for. And even the people that are the salt addicts, they're not like, gosh, I relapsed. I accidentally put some salt on my kale. No, it's I had some French fries or potato chips.
Yeah.
So it's almost like the sugar and the salt are the carrier for the fat. Most people just don't go and eat lard or oil or butter.
Right.
It's they eat fat with sugar or fat with salt. And the thing is sugar, fat, and salt do not appear together anywhere in nature. It's not possible. You have fat in nature, you have avocados, you have nuts and seeds, and animal products, I suppose. But even then, animals are not just fat. But and the fat that we had in nature occurred seasonally, and our ancestors were nomadic. So you've got fat in nature, which was very difficult to get to, by the way, because you couldn't open the nuts and seeds like you can today. Just go to Costco and buy a 3-pound bag.
Well, they were all missing from the tree anyhow, because all the animals were eating them.
Yeah, exactly. And sugar only appears in nature in the form of fruit. Fruit. And salt.
It wasn't hybridized.
It was, right. Like today's fruit is so sweet.
If you look at apples, 100 years ago, they were tiny, little things. And now you have these huge ones in the stores.
Yeah. And then salt in nature, well, there's no salt shaker. So what it is, it was green vegetables. And so the thing is again, if you want to learn more about this, read Sugar, Fat, and Salt: How the Food Giants Hooked Us by investigative journalist, Pulitzer Prize-winning author Michael Moss, or read The End of Overeating by Dr. David Kessler, the former head of the FDA. But sugar's addictive, fat's addictive, salt's addictive, and they're already addictive on their own. But when you put them together in restaurant food or processed food and layer and load them and create a bliss point in people's brain with these hyper-palatable science projects, it's impossible to stop eating, for most people.
It's liquor for the brain. I mean, these companies spend billions of dollars creating this magical formula that they guard like nuclear launch codes. They don't want to give that secret away because they know that's what's drawing you in.
And most people have been eating these things from birth.
Absolutely.
Or before birth, because your mother ate these things. And then
Right.
a lot of people like myself were raised on formula, where the first ingredient is sugar, and then oil, and then salt. So people come to UWL, it cracks me up. It's like, oh my God, I've been eating this way 5 days. And it's like, really? Well, what were you doing the last 50 years to created your inability to enjoy this food? If you were raised like Dr. Goldhammer's son Scar, he finds all this food delicious. This is all he knows. So you have to give it time, because they have to deal with the fact that, first of all, they're going through some kind of withdrawal.
Yeah.
If it's not physical from the sugar and all those other toxins that they were having, caffeine and alcohol, it's certainly emotional, because they're grieving, giving up like their comfort and things like that. But it takes about 30 days of salt. Like if you stop adding salt to your, and I'm amazed how many people in UWL just eat salt like as if like they've never heard us say that it's a salt-free program. Like even some of the people that have had quite a bit of success, like say, I've always eaten. I mean, that's fine, but I would venture that that's the reason that they're still having cravings, those that are, because they're still including salt. So if you really commit to not eating any salt, which means you're not only not adding salt from the salt shaker, but not eating processed food, after about 30 days, the food will taste salty enough.
Again, you have to eat when you're hungry, and that neuroadapting does take time. But in the meantime, use all the spices and seasonings that we recommend.
Absolutely. I mean, the
Makes it
Benson's
easy.
Table Tasty, all the other brands, Mrs. Dash, Kirkland's of salt-free
Everything.
seasoning, using lemon and lime, because when you use sour, you can often fool your taste buds that you had something salty, because the sour taste buds taste next to the salt. I've been SOS-free for 10 years now, even before I lost weight, and I never had problems with people not liking my food, because I know how to season things without it. But as far as the neuroadaptation, that can take a while. But the problem is people won't go 30 days. They go a few days. They have a slip. They have a relapse.
They panic.
And the thing is if you're trying to lose weight, the fact that you don't think the food is that interesting, good. That's
even better.
good. That is good. And you worry about not getting enough nutrition. Well, if you're overweight, you have plenty of nutrition, because if you've got 50 or 100 pounds of fat on you, you can live for a couple of years just on your own fat reserves.
Absolutely.
So
Right.
you're not going to have to worry about that. Obviously, you don't ever want to go ever without drinking water. You know, not that I'm even recommending people fast. So that can take 30 days for salt. As far as sugar, we're always going to have a sweet tooth. We have taste buds on the tip of our tongue for sweet and salty. So it's not like it doesn't mean that you have to indulge it with processed sugar, but you're always going to enjoy the sweet taste because
Eat fruit.
exactly,
How hard
because
can it be?
breast milk
Sweet
is
potatoes.
sweet. The first
Yeah.
taste we ever get as infants is breast milk, and it's sweet in nature. The sweet taste helped us differentiate poisonous from non-poisonous berries. So it's not going to go away. You can go the rest of your life without sugar. It doesn't mean you're going to dislike the taste of sweet. But that's actually pretty easy because, like you say, fruit and sweet potatoes, when you stop eating sugars, you'll find that zucchini is sweet. Vegetables are actually sweet. Romaine lettuce is sweet. It almost tastes like vanilla. So that, now, but the thing is the fat, and I need to ask one of the doctors about this, especially Dr. Esselstyn, because he wants his patients who have advanced cardiovascular disease to go very low fat, no added fat right away. He says that's easier than trying to do it slower. But I don't know what it is that craving. It seems to take people that have more fat on their body longer to adapt to a low fat diet.
Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah. With the whole thing though, with sugars though, is it's almost seems cheating when you can have all the fruit you want, any type of fruit. I mean, it's like, my gosh, how hard is it to eat watermelon and cantaloupe and nectarines and peaches? Oh my gosh.
The other thing is I think so many of the people, especially the women on group, are still trying to combine the diet mentality they had from the weighing and measuring programs with this program, and it won't work.
No.
So what they're doing is they don't realize how much food you have to eat, and because maybe it doesn't taste as good to them, they're not eating as much, and then it becomes a vicious cycle where they're not hungry. There's got to be something to the left of the red line that you like. If it's not vegetables, maybe it's beans, maybe it's air-fried chickpeas, maybe it's rice. How could you not like sweet potatoes or air-fried potatoes made out of russets? There's got to be something that's a starch that you like. So eat that. Eat that.
People will like it when they're hungry.
That's true.
Just everybody we've talked to who's gone to True North and has fasted, they cannot tell you. They're screaming how great just vegetables tasted after a fast.
You know, people say, "Oh, my kid's so picky." Well, to me, picky just means not hungry.
Exactly.
You know. So I hope we answered that question. When you're not loving it, yeah, like I said, you will. If you, Monica, if you want this to go faster, go to True North and fast, and this will happen pretty much at the end of your fast. If you fast for at least, like 5 days or so. So okay, so Suzanne, this is where we're going to talk about the lecture that you gave at the in-person Ultimate Weight Loss Program last week. Because Suzanne and Claudia both have, and we're not going to mention any names because we are fans of all of the plant-based people, the doctors. They are our friends, they are our colleagues, and so we don't want to pit one program against another because we need to separate the program from the people. But Suzanne and Claudia have confusion about other plant-based programs which allow foods that are not recommended on UWL.
Well, one thing I want to say, so I can take all the responsibility so you don't get any, is I've said from day one in Ultimate Weight Loss, day one, I've screamed it from the top of a mountain, is if you're in our program, but I think we agree, but I want to take responsibility for it, do not recommend that you're reading, watching, or listening to other programs. It doesn't mean that those practitioners aren't the best in the world. It's just we want you to have laser beam focus, and we don't want you watching a video from one of the top doctors in the world talking about the benefits of nuts or seeds or avocados, because now what happened to your laser beam focus? Boom. Now you're starting to fantasize about the nuts and seeds and the mystical magical smoothies and all this stuff. So you have to have that focus. We just want you to stay and listen to what we're saying for now.
At least 21 days.
At least that's it, just the 21-day program. And then after clients have worked with me, or both of us for a while, for sure me, for forever I've said this, after you've been with me for a while, and I see you in one of my seminars, and I've done this to people, I kick them out. I say, you go next door and go to that other lecture, you've heard me enough. So it's not like we're trying to just have you be walking zombies following us, but we need you for 21 days or 30 days to follow the program. And one of the things that we find is when people do that, and they have the laser beam focus, it's easy for them to stick to the program. Easy.
When they do, it's never not work. And like when Shada talks to people about like her success, that's exactly what she says. She says, I had laser beam focus.
Yeah.
All I did for 1 year was attend all their classes, and
She still does.
right, I know, she
My
doesn't
God.
have to anymore.
Yeah.
So the thing is what they try to do, and you mentioned this because when he spoke to the live group, what did you say exactly? The people, we were talking about the people that had been most successful in the Ultimate
Oh,
Weight
yeah.
Loss program.
I started out the lecture by saying, please get your pen and paper out, so in case you fall asleep, I want to give you the most important point of this program. And what I said, as soon as I started, within a minute, I said the most important point you'll ever learn from this program is follow the program as it's designed. Don't cherry pick it. So don't say, I'm going to take a little of this and a little of this, and then I'm going to follow Dr. Joe and Dr. Blow over here. No, it doesn't work that way.
Right.
No. I mean, you got to follow the program.
Because it doesn't work when you're combining it with other programs. Now, that may work, and then you can create your own wonderful
go ahead.
program. But we know that if you follow Ultimate Weight Loss as designed, it's never not worked. But people
Absolutely.
come, well, I'm going to do your program, except I still want to have my nightly glass of wine or
Yeah,
my daily
sure.
Diet Coke. Yes, but I have to include tahini or,
Sure.
So when they don't get the results that other people have gotten, they blame the program when they've never actually done our program.
Well, especially if they're food addicts. If they're not food addicts, that's a different story. They could have a little this and a little that.
Absolutely.
But for most of our people are food
Right,
addicts.
but if they weren't food addicts, then why would they even come to
I
us?
agree.
I have said this from day one, and I mean it. Last stop on the train. If you can do a less restrictive program and have the calm, stable brain and the body that you say you want, which for most women is slender, then do those programs. But if you could have done it, you probably would have done it already.
Yeah.
The problem with salt and sugar isn't so much that it's from a caloric density. Well, first of all, salt has no calories, and sugar does have a pretty high caloric density at 1,800 calories a pound. The problem isn't that the sprinkle of salt or the sprinkle of sugar. The problem is that if you are a food addict, you are more sensitive to these chemicals. These are chemicals that fool the brain satiety mechanisms, even in people that aren't like food addicts like Charles. When he gets sugar and salt, he eats way more food. He likes it better, and he eats more. It doesn't affect him because he can stop. But for those of us that are food addicts, when we get a little bit, even if it's just a teaspoon of sugar on our oatmeal or a sprinkle of salt on our mashed potatoes, we eat and eat and eat and eat. So there's nothing wrong with a little sugar and salt if you use it the way Dr. McDougall recommends on the surface of your food, if you're not a food addict.
Right.
Most of these doctors have not been overweight themselves. They don't suffer from food addiction, and they're not generally dealing with people day in, day out that are food addicts. So that's the problem.
That's the main difference between our program and most other
It's
programs.
the only vegan food addiction program that I know of.
Exactly.
So that's the thing. So you can be healthy eating sugar and salt. You can reverse heart disease eating sugar and salt. But what we're trying to do is help people completely annihilate their cravings and overcome food addiction. And for most people, that little sprinkle of sugar, that little sprinkle of salt is enough to set them off to even a binge sometimes.
Well, it would be like saying to an alcoholic, you could have 1 tablespoon of vodka a day. That 1 tablespoon is going to drive them nuts. And then before you know it, it's a shot glass, and then it's a whole bottle. It just
All the
doesn't work.
smokers out there, try smoking 1 cigarette a day. See how that works for you, But again, people are always doing what Dr. McDougall says, looking for good news about their bad habits. There's some plant-based programs that allow flour, and it can work. Flour's caloric density is 1,500 calories a pound. But for somebody that's a food addict, flour to our brains is the same as sugar. So the problem is that not with the plant-based programs or the people that run them. They're fabulous. The programs are fabulous. Unless you are somebody that suffers from food addiction. One of the biggest problems is we've got a group of people that are food addicts that completely are in denial that they're even food addicts.
It's amazing how they almost are angry that we use the term food addiction. It's amazing. They're upset about it. And then it seems like months later, they finally will come on the board and they'll post, I'm Mary and I'm a food addict.
Yeah.
I'm finally going to admit to it. It's like we don't say that to hurt people's feelings. We're just being honest.
I think it's empowering. Gosh, when I first found out there was such a thing as food addiction, I was like, oh, good. I'm not crazy. There is a reason to explain why I can't stop eating particular foods once I start.
Yeah.
And so that's really it. Any more questions, or we can end a little early today? And I hope you guys like this new time. We're going to be trying it out. It's better for JP's schedule, and it's certainly better for mine because I have a class right after. So did you end the broadcast, or do they have any questions?
No questions.
No
that I see.
questions. All right. So maybe next week we'll talk a little bit about relapse prevention. Reboot checklist.
Yes.
A lot of people are asking for that in the Ultimate Weight Loss Program, which you can join simply by going to my website, eatunprocessed.com. Check out the free videos. We got a great conference coming up. There's still some tickets left.
Amazing.
And we're happy to give any of our viewers $100 off. We've got Dr. Barnard, I was going to say Dr. McDougall, Dr. Goldhammer, Dr. Lyle, John Pierre, myself, Dr. Alfiera, so that's going to be fabulous.
Amazing.
August 31st, we added a bonus session at 2 p.m. with Dr. Doug Lyle. And what else have we got going on? Are we going to be anywhere? I'll be in Rancho La Puerta May 5th through 12th if you guys want to check me out there. Oakland Veg Fest May 19th. Where are you going
I
to
have
be?
a Veg Fest here coming up May 6th.
Are you going to be speaking
I
at
will
it?
be there.
Hey,
and I'll have
I
a
didn't know
booth.
that. So
Nice.
that's in Los Angeles. So
Yes,
if
come on
you're
out.
if
See
you're
me.
somewhere, check us out, and please sign up to be on my mailing list at eatunprocessed.com so that the minute my book comes out, you'll be notified
Yes.
and you'll be able to get all those terrific bonuses that we're offering. So thanks again for watching another episode 72 of Weight Loss Wednesday. I'm Chef AJ, and who are you?
I'm John Pierre.
That's right, and both of us truly believe you can have both the health and the body you so richly deserve. Take care, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.